Was there ever a moment or ever a period of time where the adopted kids felt victimized by being non-biological in some way?
We had said that, to Logan, son, I'm sure that your biological parents loved you, but they may not have been able to afford to keep you and they wanted a better life for you. Part of my story is the financial ruin that we went through back in 2008 and 2009. And one of the most devastating things that my son ever said to me, he said, please, please, please don't send me back.
Oh.
Dude, what are you talking about? Well, send you back what? He goes, well, you said that my biological parents may have given me up because they didn't have enough money, and we don't have any money right now. And I don't want you and mom.
Actually, I want to start with this question. How in the world did you have, was it 3 kids in 6 months? Explain that, please.
Yeah, so, I always like to kid my wife, and it pisses her off. And I'm like, you've got 3 kids with 3 different dads. And she's like, you're an ass. So back in 2000, before that, my wife and I have been married since 1998. We tried to have kids. We were successful in getting pregnant, but we weren't successful with staying pregnant. So I had a handful, 3 miscarriages. And, as we were, early on in our marriage, we decided that we wanted to have a biological child. And then if we had a boy, we wanted to adopt. And we decided to adopt a girl, or if it was a girl, we'd adopt a boy. So when we found out that, we were told that she couldn't have kids, bring them to full term, we decided, hey, let's just adopt. So in the summer of 2000, we hopped on a plane to go to Kyiv, Ukraine. And at that time, we adopted our son, who was 15 months old at the time, Logan, and then our daughter, Madeline, who was 4 months old. So we had a 15-month-old and 4-month-old. Well, about 3 days prior to leaving for the Ukraine, Carmen came to me and she said, look, I got something to tell you. I'm like, okay. And she goes, well, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh. So we hustled to a doctor. The doctor said, look, we know what your history is. We know what's going to happen. And if you go to adopt your kids, you can do that. But if and when this miscarriage happens, you can't go to a doctor. You're just going to have to let it occur naturally. But we weren't willing to risk not going. So we just said, okay, we'll go. And Karma was willing to, sacrifice whatever that meant, if she were to miscarriage. Well, ultimately, while we were there, she didn't. We got back to the States. And so we got back on July, I think, 7th. Our adoption date was July 5th. And then January 5th, we had our biological child, McLean. So we went from 0 to 3 kids in 6 months. So that's kind of the thing. So all different fathers. So that's kind of the party joke of, you were.
See, I'm glad though. I got to play this for my wife because I'm not the only one then that looks to push the edges of what's funny in our relationship. So I love that. The 3 kids that are they're within 2 years of each other, right? All within like a 18 or 20 month time frame of each other.
20 months. Yeah. So we have Logan, who's 24 now. Maddie is 23. And then my youngest, our biological child, is 22. It's interesting when we talk about that, and you didn't ask, but it just popped in my head. What's interesting is people say, well, you adopted kids and then you got a biological child. Dude, and you probably know this, but when you adopt a child or you have a biological child, the only time I ever think about those kids being adopted is when I talk about it in this type of situation. Other than that, they're my kids. I mean, they are my kids, blood or not. I mean, they're our sons and daughters, and we raise them as such. We love them. We love on them. We hate on them at times if they deserve it, but not to hate. But
I get you. Yeah. I say to my kids now, they're younger. We try to make the delineation, like, we always love you. We may not always like you, nor do you always like me, right? You always love me, but you might not like me at times, and I don't deserve to be liked sometimes. So, but it's interesting. I was going to ask you, kind of on the flip side of that, a lot of people are right now maybe adopting or have adopted, and they have younger kids. Sort of a two-part question. One, when did they know they were adopted? And two, not so much that you would act any differently toward them, but with knowledge of being adopted as they've grown up, maybe they're on the other side of it. Was there ever a moment or ever a period of time where the adopted kids, I don't know, felt victimized by being non-biological in some way? I don't know if that's the right phrasing, but I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, I do. I know exactly what you're asking. So Carmen and I, my wife and I, chose to, as we told our kids that they were adopted from the moment they could understand. You know, you have a biological, father and mother, and then you have your father and mother. So we never hid that. And, it's just who we are. Our kids grew up that. They're proud that they're adopted. Have there been times where there's probably, and if you ask them and in a private setting, there's probably a time or two that they may say, well, was I treated differently because I'm adopted and, McLean is biological? I can tell you it's never happened, but could they have felt that way? Yeah, sure, maybe. But no, our kids are all treated the same. They are loved on the same. But it's an interesting dynamic. It really is. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but probably one of the most heartbreaking stories that we had is a learning experience for Carmen and I. One of the things that we told the kids, again, it was a mistake, but you don't know it's a mistake, was we had said that, to Logan, this specifically to Logan, our son, was, your biological parents, they gave you up for adoption. And in his case, he was left on the doorstep of a police station. So we made up his birthday, we made up his name. And, he said, son, I'm sure that your biological parents loved you, but they may not have been able to afford to keep you, and they wanted a better life for you. So they chose this, and hopefully you can love and respect that. Well, part of my story is a financial ruin that we went through back in 2008 and 2009. And one of the most devastating things that my son ever said to me, he said, please, please, please don't send me back.
Wow.
Dude, what are you talking about? Send you back what? He goes, well, you said that my biological parents may have given me up because they didn't have enough money, and we don't have any money right now. And I don't want you and mom to send me back. Shit, that was early. So yeah. And we're like, bud, no, that's not what we meant. We are always here. We're always going to love you. We're always your parents. But it's one of those things when you're adult and you're a father or a mother, sometimes we say stuff that is wonderful in meaning, but it's interpreted from a child, right? Yeah. That was such a learning experience for us. And it was such a big thing that, he associated that, and it was something that we never would have considered, right? But at the same time, it was a valid point for him. And I'm like, dude, I get where you're coming from, but absolutely not. So our kids are never treated differently. They are all loved on the same. And I love the story of adoption. I love people's adoption stories, and I love biological stories too. I mean, there are kids, man. And being a dad is the greatest joy in the world. It's also can be one of the most frustrating things because, as kids grow, their problems change. When they're young, it's, grades or, then they get to high school and it's somebody's picking on them, or their boyfriends are mean, or their girlfriends are mean. And then as they get to adults and they move out, you're like, okay, we're kind of done with that parenting stuff. Man, you never stop parenting. I got a call this morning. My daughter's car is breaking down and she doesn't have the money to fix it. I'm like, you always have the problems. They're just different. So,
well, anyway. Is there any knowledge for either of them of, and thank you, by the way, for opening up like that. Is there any knowledge for either of them of who their biological parents are? And if so, have they ever tried to seek them out?
No, I don't think it would. I don't think it would be possible to find out who our Logan's biological parents are. Madeline, we do have a birth certificate for her. She's never expressed an interest in finding her biological mother or father. If she has, Jamie, she hasn't expressed it to us. I mean, she could have, looked online or something like that. It's just, it's kind of I don't want to say third world country, but their technology is such that they just don't know. What I will say is my son did take a 23andMe, just to see if there were any family members out there, which we encourage them to do,
Sure.
And nothing's come up. But again, 23andMe probably isn't as popular in the Ukraine as it is here in the States.
Yeah. As a parent of grown adopted children now, I feel like it's funny how this works. I've talked to a lot of people recently, I mean, in the dozen range, that have adopted, just happening. It's not like I'm targeting parents of adopted children or anything, but they're all young. They're all, infants or maybe preteen or maybe getting right to that teenage level. And you shared, I think, the most important thing, which is kind of a given, right? Like, love your kids no matter what, whether they're adopted or whatever. Hey, Tribe listeners, I want to tell you about the sponsor for this episode, Gobundance. Gobundance is a community that I belong to. It is the tribe for healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. Everyone knows that who you surround yourself with matters. You always hear cliches like proximity is power. You're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. All are true. Gobundance offers you a place for you to go into that already has a culture built around relationships, health, wealth, contribution, adventure, all grounded in being held accountable to whatever goals you set for yourselves. Learn about how our one sheets help you unlock the next level of you. Learn about how getting into an accountability pod with 3 or 4 other members can drive you forward faster than you ever have been able to before. Listen, right now, what I want to talk to you about is our Gobundance Emerge community. For anyone with a net worth up to $2 million, go to gobundanceemerge.com and apply. Let's get on a call. Let's talk about what membership looks like. Be ready to invest time and energy and money into you so that you can become that best version. People ask, hey, how did you quit your job? How did you move abroad? How'd you do all those things? How am I even having this episode as an expat? It's because I invested in myself specifically by joining the Gobundance tribe. Go to gobundanceemerge.com. If you're over 2 million, go to gobundance.com. Apply there. There is a community within Gobundance for you. Now back to the show. But is there anything else that you learned over the time, now that you're on the other side, your kids are grown, specifically with the adopted kids, that is important for parents of younger adopted kids to know? Is there any advice? If there's not, that's fine. But I'm just curious if there's anything out there that you would share, nuggets of wisdom, things that popped up, stories that resonate, even when maybe you brought the kids home, that just that you would give advice for parents that are in the process of or are currently adopting.
Man, what a great question. What I would say is this, is that there are, and look, we were in a lot of adoption groups when we were, when the kids were younger. One of the challenges, perceived challenges, which is not, is the thought that, am I going to love this child as much as I would a biological child? Would my in-laws love this child as much as a blood relative? Would my friends accept it? And the answer to all those is yes, yes, yes. I mean, my kids' grandparents love them unconditionally, just like they were a blood relative. And again, it goes back to, you never think that they're adopted until it gets brought up in a situation. You really don't. It's amazing. And so that's the big thing is, I would say, I think when we first went through this, I was worried, well, they always going to be like adopted. Well, no, they're just your kids. But a quick funny story, my wife, I don't remember saying this, but we were in the process of, figuring out where we wanted to go to adopt. And, we talked about, do we adopt from Korea or China or Japan? Do we adopt, I think Costa Rica was one, that we talked about different races, be it Caucasian, African American. And I guess I made the comment to my wife, I'm like, So, honey, let's just adopt an African American child. But do you think that at some point he or she will know that they're not a biological child?
Yeah, right.
Still great something with
that. Why Ukraine? How did you settle on Ukraine?
Actually, it was we found someone who had adopted from Ukraine, and they had a what's called a facilitator. It wasn't an adoption agency, a facilitator that we found actually in Atlanta. We were in Charlotte at the time, but a facilitator that had done a handful of adoptions. So we actually adopted before they shut down all the adoptions out of the Ukraine and Russia. So we got very lucky.
Very cool. You're as an entrepreneur, you saw a need and you created something to fill that need. If I read your story right, meaning moved to Atlanta from Charlotte, didn't love the way you were treated by the realtors that you had at the time, so you said, "Hey, I can do it better." Tell me a little bit more about that. How did your career start as a top broker? I mean, you're rated top broker in Keller Williams in the world, top teams. I mean, you've got all these accolades. How did all that start?
Yeah. So after we adopted the kids, it was the summer of 2000. We had McLean, January of 2001, and we quickly realized that with going from 0 to 3 kids and having no family close by, that we needed some help. Right. We wanted our grandparents to get to know our kids. We wanted our kids to get to know their grandparents. And me growing up, I really didn't have a relationship with grandparents. So we made the decision to move to to the Atlanta area, which is where Carmen's family was. I was in the material handling business at the time, could easily find a job. And so we moved down here. But in the process of moving, the real estate agents that we used, the first one did really nothing for us. He allowed me, she allowed me to dictate what I thought the house was worth, which is just ridiculous. Put the house on the market, it didn't sell. 90 days later, we switched brokers and listed. We bought the house for $118,500. We ended up selling it for $121,500. The only time we saw the agent was when they came to list the house. And then, at that time in 2001, you didn't have internet to be able to DocuSign or anything like that. So we presented the offer to us, and that was it. And then he showed up at the closing table. But in between that, there were no phone calls. There was no, check-ins, anything. And he showed up at the closing table and collected this check. Now, I'm like, at the time, it was $3,000. I'm like, damn, that's the easiest effing money that this guy's ever made. And it's a racket. And, I can understand if you've been in constant communication, so on and so forth. So it just left a sour taste in my mouth. I moved down here, was working in the material handling business, selling forklifts, warehouse equipment, hated the job. And 9/11 happened. Saw the writing on the wall that my job was not going to, be able to sustain itself. So I got my real estate license and decided to jump into it full time. But one of my premises was, I am not going to treat people the way that Carmen and I were treated, and I live to that to this day. There's 3 things that we commit to each client that we serve. Number 1 is, we're going to be competent in what we do. We know how to get you the best deal. We know how to negotiate. We know how to, deal with contracts. The second thing is, we're going to treat you as much as we can like family, even though you're not, but we're going to do that. We want you to have a great relationship, and, word of mouth and referrals is huge for us. And then 3 is, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, and we can agree to disagree on things, but I'm going to tell you my truths. And that's, in 2 of those cases, the first agent that we hired took my listing recommendation. I'm not the frickin' expert, but, she listed the house for $50,000 more than what it sold for. That was stupid. Mm-hmm. It was just a waste of time. So that's how I got started. I got my real estate license in 2002, built up a very good business up until 2006, beginning of 2007. Then, anybody that was alive or in the industry at that point knows what happened then. The market crashed and we crashed with it up until 2000, up till 2012. It was kind of a clusterfuck. Sorry.
No,
I can cuss on here, right?
Yeah, you got to listen more, man. A lot of cursing happens here. Yeah.
So, but so we went through just, an awful time. And then I reset personally, and we'll get into this more in just a few minutes, I'm sure. But really back in 2010, it started taking back off again. And for the last 8-10 years, we've got a good thriving business. I run a team called the Hermes Realty Group. I'm part of Keller Williams Realty, and we're based out of really Northeast Atlanta, but I just say Atlanta. So that's kind of the start of it.
What back to 08, 2010, like you said, we'll get into it a bit. Obviously, you're in real estate in a time where real estate crashed. Completely get that. But for you to have gone through the financial hardship you did at the time, what were the conditions in place for you personally, from a personal financial perspective? Like, what did you learn from that time? I mean, save money. I don't know. Like, what created the demise for you financially outside of obviously the market crashing? What created that demise for you, and what did you learn from that?
Well, from what I've learned, I'm still learning. I'm having to get over a scarcity mindset, and it's still something that I work through. Even though we've got money, we've got houses, we've got vacation homes. I still think, right around the corner, I'm going to be broke.
Right.
And it's weird.
Yeah.
But, it's something that I constantly, and that's in my fabric of, having gone through what we went through. I need to get over it. I'm better today than I was probably yesterday or a month ago or a year ago. But the long story is, back in 2006, I was making $250,000 a year. My wife and I bought a house that we should not have bought. It was too big. We did a stated income loan. We had $90,000 worth of cars that we leased. When the market shifted, everything came crumbling down. So one of the things that I learned is the only debt that we have right now is my real estate. That's it.
No mortgage, personal mortgage.
Personal mortgage I have, but
okay.
That's the debt that we'll have. Yep. That's the debt that I'll carry. I've got a personal mortgage, and then I've got mortgage on, I think, 4 or 6 houses that we own. Everything else, but we don't have car debt. We don't have credit cards. I have a business credit card, but that's paid off at the end of the month. So we are debt free other than real estate. And I think that's key, right? I was reading somewhere the average American has like 1,000 that doesn't have more than $1,000 in the bank for emergencies.
That's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave Ramsey. That's a Dave Ramsey thing. Have $1,000
Okay.
I mean, that's part of his 7 baby steps or whatever. I'm not blaming him but that is what he says. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We don't carry debt. The only debt that I'll carry is real estate, and I'm doing whatever we can to pay that off as quickly as we can. But where we got into the challenges was obviously the market crash, right? It was real estate was my sole income. A determining a partial factor of our financial ruin that we went through is Logan, our son that we adopted. We found out back in 2007 through a series of things that he has a blood disorder, if you will. He's missing an enzyme in his bloodstream, so that when his blood doesn't filter out the bad stuff, and it was causing him to have like a distended belly. Come to find out, his spleen was like 9 times as big as it should be. His kidneys were 3 times as big. He would have constant nosebleeds. You grab his arm or hug him and you lose him. And it was awful for him. We finally found a doctor here in Atlanta, and there's only one of 2 in the world that at the time found out that he has something called Gaucher disease. And what this is there's an enzyme in his bloodstream that's missing. And that enzyme is the thing that cleans out your blood. And if you don't have that enzyme, all the bad stuff collects in the kidney and the spleen. Great to find that out. really interesting to find out that it's only carried by, and I hope I get the term right, Ashkenazi Jews. So, and both parents need to be carriers. So he's actually Jewish, or he's from Jewish descent, which is, kind of cool. And so that's all cool that we found out what his deal was. The problem is there's no cure. And he has to every other week have an infusion, which is like an IV that gets put into his body that has this enzyme in it. But after 2 weeks, it's burnt itself out. So he has
to this day, still?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Again, good news that that there's something that will help him. Negative is that at the time, that medicine was $50,000 a month. Insurance didn't cover it.
Any of it?
No. So we're looking at $600,000 a year in. Well, we had shitty insurance first, right? So, independent contractor, you don't have good health coverage. So we found that out. So that's going good. So, we're dealing with the market crashing, buying a house that we couldn't afford, huge debt on our cars, and then now $600,000. Literally every time this box, like a 12 by 12 box, hit my front door every other week, it was $50,000. So that was fun. But you do what you do for your kids, right?
Yeah, of course.
You get them healthy. Back in 2008, my youngest daughter, our biological daughter, had a series of things happen where she has always needed glasses. And finally, we took her, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so we just took her to Walmart, optometrist. And this guy was, give him a lot of credit. He said, look, there's something going on with her retinas. I can't figure it out. You need to go see a specialist. So we did so, and come to find out both of her retinas were detaching. They wouldn't let her leave the doctor's office, hustled her into surgery. Long story short, within 3 weeks, she had totally lost sight in her right eye. Now she's at about 1% in her left eye. So this happened when she was 8. So I got a son with a $600,000 medical bill a year, and now I'm dealing with the blind daughter at the age of 8. So as you can imagine, things are going good.
God, man. Well, is she blind then? Blind now?
She's blind now. Yeah, she lost her eyesight. She had a failed surgery, bot surgery that lost her.
No recovery, no way to redo or wow.
Yeah, so her optic nerve severed, and you can't. It's like a brain injury. If you don't get blood to the optic nerve, then your eye just dies basically. So that was 2008, and then jump forward to 2009 is kind of when the final straw. If we were in the process of losing our house, going into foreclosure, I used to wake up every day and look out the window to see if our cars were still on the driveway because they're going to get repossessed. And my wife, she eventually came to me, and I remember exactly where I was sitting on the kitchen counter in this house that the bank wanted back. And she said, look, I've talked to my mom. My mom said that myself and the kids are welcome to move into her house, and you're not welcome. The hell you talking about? And the impetus was that unless you stop drinking, you're not welcome, and I'm leaving. And that was the kind of the kick in the ass that I needed. I knew I was alcoholic. Carmen had told me time and time again, I need to stop drinking, but you have to get to, and it's true, you got to get to your bottom, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is and wherever that is. And I knew that I had a problem, but that was the one time that it just finally hit. I'm like, she's gone. If I don't make this change, she's gone. And so that was November 13th, 2009. I put down my last drink and haven't had a drink since. I won't say that things all of a sudden became rosy and Carmen fell back in love with me instantly and and things were great, but it was a starting point. We got to have starting points, right?
Yeah.
So, we eventually lost the house. We lost the cars. We were probably 48 hours, 72 hours from being homeless. And a former client of mine allowed us to rent his house from him. So from, basically I say my great reset was in 2010. We lost everything, had zero money, less than zero money, a lot less than zero money. But we've come out of it. I mean, I would not wish my past on anyone, but wouldn't trade it for the world. I am who I am today because of all the good and the bad that I've been through, Jamie. I mean, it's a life is a wonderful thing. It really is. It's tough at times. It sucks at times, and it's great at times. But so that's the story. So I built the team back up, or I built a team. We're now, doing, I think last year we were like 1.4 million in GCI gross commission income with just 3 agents on my team. We'll be close to a million or so this year. We've let some people go, so we're a much smaller team. But it's great. I mean, I joined Gobundance in 2018. So not one of the original, but I've been around Gobundance a while, and it's just amazing the growth just from being in Gobundance. And this is a Gobundance ad, right? I mean,
well, we'll get into that in one of the questions. We do a little advice for future members or whatever, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I would never have imagined the blessings that I've received because of all the trouble and all the challenges that we've had. I'm able to help people. I get to go speak at real estate conferences or just conferences about my alcoholism. I am an open book, dude. I am who I am because of the stuff that I have lived in my past. And me talking about being an alcoholic helps keep me sober. If you and I go down to Lake Oconee at the next Gobundance event and you see me with a Bud Light in my hand, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
So
this helps me. So you're keeping me sober today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, especially Bud Light, it's like a double.
Well, that was my drink. Before all the political stuff.
All the anyway. Well, all right. This is nagging in my mind. You're making $250,000 a year, 08, 07, whatever it might be. And then your son has a $600,000 a year bill that you need to pay. How are you paying that? How are you paying $50,000 a month?
We were doing whatever, medical, the pharmacies helped with helping us pay what we could, right? They also said your son's never not going to get medicine, so I'll give the pharmacy or the whatever, the medical labs that credit. But we needed to figure out ways to get things done, and we're able to figure it out. Now he's got good insurance. He's on his own, so his employer covers that. But we figured out ways to do it.
Wow, man. Wow, that's incredible. I mean, the amount of layers of what you went through, all in a condensed time frame, is incredible to me, right? Your daughter going blind, your son with the disease, your business failing, your wife about to leave you. Was there a point post 2010? You said that was sort of like the beginning of your resurrection. Was there a point post 2010, or maybe it never came, where you have felt like your marriage was back on steady ground? Was there a moment? Was there anything where you, like you said, she didn't fall right back in love with you after you stopped drinking, but do you recall a moment where, I don't know, almost like the first time you realized you were in love, where you realized you were back in love?
Great question. I don't know that there's a time, but there's a situation that I recall that kind of made me think that we're back to where we need to be. So for probably 3 years after I got sober, my wife would be invited on girls' trips, or she would be invited to go, overnight with a friend, somewhere, and she always turned them down. I'm like, look, honey, we got some money. You can go do this, go enjoy yourself, so on and so forth. And And after about 3 years, it hit me. I'm like, so I talked to her about it. I said, I just realized something, and tell me if I'm wrong or not, is you had plenty of opportunities to go on these world trips and whatever. And she had just gone on one. She had just left and gone on one. It was the first one that she'd gone on in years. I said, were you not going because you didn't trust me and think that I would be able to handle the kids and not drink? And she said, well, yeah.
Mm.
Telling, right?
Yeah.
I never thought about it. I never thought about it. So I think that was probably the point where it kind of hit home that, yeah, she trusts me. And with trust comes love, or with love comes trust, however you want to look at it. So I think that's probably, I don't know, it was probably 3 years afterwards, but you're dealing with a lot of baggage, right? Everybody is, and I like to say this. I was giving a talk to a real estate office here locally Monday. And I said, look, if everybody in this room, we wrote down on a piece of paper all the shit that we have going on in our lives, all the bad stuff, and you split it into the middle of a table and everyone got to read everybody else's, more than likely you'd pull yours back out and say, I'll take my list. I don't want yours and yours and yours and yours, because we're all having that stuff. Mm. And one of the examples was this sweet 78-year-old woman that said, yeah, you're right. I'm about to lose my house. My husband died 7 years ago. I have no money, so on and so forth. I'm like, holy cow, my problems, and I've got them, don't compare to hers. We all have our stuff. So we had ours. We're through the major stuff, but it's coming. I mean, something else is coming. It's just, I'm better prepared for it. I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. I'm a better businessman. I'm a better, whatever, than I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 14, coming up on 14 years ago, because of all the trouble, all the challenges that we have.
What do you anticipate? I mean, I feel like as we're heading into, mid 2023, into 2024, we're in a rising interest rate environment. And there are some very clear markers in certain sectors. Commercial real estate's one of them, multifamily, especially short-term debt. Office, obviously, some retail, right? You could see it. You could see there's distress already, and you can see the distress coming. And there's even financial numbers out there about the billions or trillions of dollars in commercial real estate that's going to come due, and how much of that will go into default, depending on debt to loan to value and all of that good stuff. Yeah. But in your space, in the residential market, and maybe even you need to niche it down to the Atlanta residential market, but we're still at low unemployment. Inflation has come under mostly control, 3% as of the last CPI report. And that'll tick up a little bit and down, but it's on its way to where it needs to be. We're likely to see another couple interest rate hikes over the next 6-8 months. But there's still low supply, constrained supply, a lot of demand. What is the real estate market from your perspective? Like, are you bracing for 08 times 2, or are you seeing? So what are you seeing? Give me the perspective, and how confident are you in your perspective?
I'm confident enough to say that my business, our real estate market here in Atlanta, I think we're going to weather whatever storm, and I don't think that it's going to be a storm. We do still have a housing shortage. There are plenty of people that are still looking to move. Interest rates are what they are. I think the further we get away from the 3% interest rate, time-wise.
New buyers are in the market, right? New buyers are in the market with the reality of 6%. That's the rate.
That's right. And, the only reason we were at 3% is because there was a freaking pandemic. That's the reason, in my opinion. We're not going to have a pandemic again, or do you want another pandemic to get the rates down? No. So the further we get away from 3%, the better we are. The Atlanta market is still very strong. We've got huge tech. We're one of the top tech places in the country. The film industry is huge here. Yeah. Granted, we're on strike, but we're still huge. We've got a bunch of Fortune 500 companies from Coke and UPS and all those that are here. So I think that we're not isolated, but we might be insulated a little bit. So
there's migration too, right? You still have population growth in Atlanta.
Absolutely. Ton of people moving into the area. We're in the Sun Belt. We're warm pretty much year round. So I think we're going to be fine, and I'm confident with that. I'm not a numbers guy, but everything that I see, read, hear, what I have seen is we have seen some potential buyers that are not buying right now because they're in a 3.5% interest rate. We had one client that wanted to move, got a pre-approval letter. They were downsizing, and they're from an $800,000 house down to $600,000, and their mortgage payment was going up $1,000 a month. And they're like, "Screw that! I'm not moving."
Right.
I'm like, "No way, I wouldn't."
Right.
Unless you have to. But there's plenty of people that have to, and I think that's the key for us, is finding out what the why is.
Yeah.
Why are you moving? What benefit does it for you to move? Are you moving out of state? Are you moving just to downsize, upside? Do you have family moving in? In-laws moving in? You need to do something different? Well, those are the people that we're focused on.
Yeah. It's interesting on the Hollywood thing. I saw this stat. It's like, I don't know, like 82% of films 5 years ago were filmed in Hollywood. And it's down now to like 54%. And, the markets that have really benefited from that, Atlanta's definitely one. Shreveport, Louisiana is another one. Boston, and there was one more, I can't remember, but it was, a wokeism correlation perhaps with, all that's happening in Hollywood, all that's happening in California, the rules, the restrictions, the laws, everything that's happening there. I mean, that's capitalism. They're going to move out of Hollywood. Oh, Florida. Florida was the other spot that's getting a lot of movie, different parts of Florida. So that's interesting. But Atlanta is a popping market, no doubt about it. So I appreciate that. I'm going to pivot over to the Gobundance member questions, just because I want to make sure I get these in before we expire on time. But your story was freaking captivating.
50 minutes already.
I don't. It didn't feel like it. I looked. I was like, oh shit, we got to roll. So let's
all right,
we'll roll through them. So all right, we have 6 pillars in Gobundance: bucket list adventure, genuine contribution, horizontal income, extreme accountability, age-defying health, and authentic relationships. Of those 6, which one are you crushing it in?
That's a question that I would say I'm not crushing it in anything. I'm doing much better over the last year with age-defying health. The contribution I've always done very well in. I love giving back. Love giving back, and that fills my heart. That's kind of one of those things that we love to do. If it's not, an example is back when we were broke, we were gifted a couple meals over like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, my real estate team, every year we collect and donate a couple hundred meals to families in need. We collect prom dresses, give those to an organization here that sets up basically a shopping day for underprivileged young ladies. We give out, Halloween pumpkins to underprivileged families, and we contribute to, giving gifts to, around Christmas time and Hanukkah and stuff like that. So that if that's by genuine contribution. Financially, yeah, we contribute, a decent amount of money, but for me, it's more time, energy, and effort is the big thing. Anybody can write a check, and we'll take their check, and then we'll use it for good. Bucket list adventure, it's interesting. When I first joined Gobundance, the first event that I went to, we did a bucket list exercise, and I put on there, I wanted to run a marathon, I wanted to buy a house on the water, and I wanted to go to Cuba. Literally within a year, I had done all 3. I'm like, wow. My wife was like, man, this abundance thing is working for you. So yeah, we went to Cuba back in 2019, right? We got back a couple of days before COVID hit.
That was the culinary tour, couples retreat. And did you do that?
Yeah. Hyman, Osborne, Timbro, McCarthy, myself, Martinez, and I forget who the other one was. That was a great trip. Then ran that marathon. I'll never run another marathon again. I hate running, but at least I did it, but I could say I did it. And then we bought a house, a lake house. Now, last year we bought a house we were talking about down in Belize. So we've got a house in Belize. So you have to write this stuff down. So we we are very purposeful in going on our, these bucket list trips. Carmen and I were going to Costa Rica this year with Gobundance, the 50 plus group. We're in Jamaica last year. So I'm really taking time to spend money, but spend time, quality time and with people that I know, like, trust, and look up to. And look up to, it doesn't need to be older,
Sure.
It can be somebody that's younger. So that I would say that the genuine contribution, the bucket list, horizontal income is something I'm still working on. We're nowhere near 100%. I would love to be there.
Would that be the one you have the pillar you have the most struggle with, or the one that you're trying to? Is that the one? Yeah,
it is. We've got single family homes. We're investing in. Again, it goes back. I kind of laugh. We were so broke, and my wife and I were counting up the different businesses that we either own or are investors in. It's like 15 of them right now. It might not seem like a lot, or maybe it seems like a lot, but they each bring in, a horizontal check, every month or every quarter, that's getting us closer to where I'll never retire from real estate. I love it, but I want to be able to slow down, right? And be able to do more of those things. So that's the one that I really am focused on. And I'll be honest, I got a late start. We lost everything.
Yeah.
I'm 58 now. So, at 44 is when I reset and started building back up our, we had nothing. So I'm having to catch up, if you will.
I guess that. I get that. It's my big fear. I'm 44. My big fear is that happening to me. What happened to you happening to me. So I that resonates. That's like you said. I'm always around the corner. Like I'm in abundance. I know I'm there, but there is this scarcity sense. But anyway, well, for another day. How about some part of your life where you might be flirting with disaster?
I would say I'm flirting with disaster in the sense of if I don't continue to improve my self-consciousness of being broke or going broke.
Yeah.
It could have an impact on decisions that I make or not make, deals that I move forward with or not move forward with, because of the fear of, if I spend that $100,000 or $200,000 and the deal goes south, you're fucked, right?
Yeah.
I'm not, but so missing opportunities because of my fear of losing it all again probably could hold me back. So that would be my answer.
There's a book I read. I actually just interviewed the author of it before I talked to you, named Love Money, Money Loves You. Jason Dries recommended it to me. I love the book, and I got the author on the podcast, Sarah McCrum. It was a really good frame-shifting book from a standpoint of making money feel way less heavy as just a topic generally. So recommend it. You listening. So
what's it called again?
Love Money, Money Loves You. Sarah McCrum. You already talked about how Gobundance has impacted your life. What about advice you'd give to a newer prospective member?
Advice I would give to a newer member would be step out of your comfort zone and start. For me, it's I know residential real estate. I don't know crap about a whole lot else. If you were to get into Gobundance, don't hang around the other guys that are doing the residential real estate. Find people that are doing the other things.
Yeah.
If it's in the tech space or AI space, or if it's in multifamily, or if it's in pharmaceuticals, or if it's in, whatever, just learn as much as you can. And what's cool about Gobundance is genuinely people are there to help. They will give advice. I can reach out to, anybody and say, hey, I'm a Gobundance member. I'd love to get 15 minutes of your time to hear more about what your business is, what you're doing, and feel very, very confident that they're going to say, absolutely, let's book a time. But how can I help you? How can I serve you? So I would say as a new Gobundance member, don't hang out with people in your own space. Find new spaces to get involved with, which is a cool thing about GoPods. You find a GoPod And your first go pod or maybe your second go pod might not be perfect for you. Be a man, suck it up, say, guys, I'm out. I need to go find something else. It's fine. Nobody's feelings are hurt. We're all big boys.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's great advice. I love that advice. Let's go to the Gobundance card game question. The 10 of hearts. If you cashed it all in to live in one spot forever, where would it be?
Does it have to be well, if I were to...
No rules, just a card game.
I would say it would be for my wife, it would be on the beach. And for me, that beachfront home backs up to the 17th hole of a golf course.
I love that. There's a place right here.
That out.
Yeah, that's here. I could point you to the place. It's not far from my house. So of course.
Really?
Yeah. I don't live on the beach, but the beach is about a mile that way. And there's a beautiful golf course. Actually, the PGA was just here. They did an event there. And there's, I don't know about the 17th hole, but it backs up to there's beachfront that backs up to the golf course. So we'll get you.
I want to be on a golf course. Carmen wants to be on the beach. So if I can split the fairway and the sand, we do that.
All right, 30-second question, because I know we're both up against it here. On your forearm is a number 12. Is there any significance to that?
It's a great question. So I don't know how many tattoos. All of them are relative to me. This one, my mother, she was a children's book author, and she always used to wear a Joe Namath jersey, and it was obviously number 12.
Yeah.
The cover of one of her children's books had a young lady with a Joe Namath jersey on. The mother in this book passed away. I was convinced that was my mom's way of telling us kids that she was dying of cancer.
Wow.
So once she passed away, I wanted to get a tattoo to honor her. And instead of, mom or, love you, mom, or something like that, I was like, she used to wear that 12 jersey as like her night shirt. So I said that I would get the number 12 for my mom.
Dude, so many. I can't wait to meet you in Lake Oconee. Like you said, if we've met before, we'll know this time. I'll remember meeting you if I haven't met you before, if I in the future, but incredible. Matt, where can people learn more about you, your team, whatever you're doing out there? Where do you want to direct folks?
Oh, man. Don't go to our website. Our website is great, but, reach out to me. They can reach out to me, email matt@matthermes.com or simply give me a call on my cell, 770-402-2819. Like I said, I'm in the beginning of this thing. I'm an open book. I'll tell you anything. No secrets from me.
Well, I hope your inbox is ready for it. So we shall see. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.